I did an instrumental called Eleanor Crossing the Water, which was based on a movie I saw many years ago called The Lion in Winter with Katharine Hepburn and Peter O'Toole. And there's this classical melody that's like, ah, and I was like, wow, that was so cool. And she says the funniest thing. She's coming down the Thames in a barge, and Peter O'Toole, the king, says, did the channel part for you? And she says, no, it went flat when I told it to. I didn't think to ask for more.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Old Music Matters and That podcast. I'm your host, Brian. And today I welcome a very special guest and another one from the West Coast. It's Peter Lancellotti. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, Brian.
No worries. And I guess what you been up to recently? Because I was checking out your Facebook page. And I think you got quite a resume here, but I guess what you been doing?
Well, here's an interesting thing. About 2 months ago, I lost my professional Facebook page because I accidentally had posted a podcast in the wrong area. And when I posted it again, I was flagged as a spammer, and they didn't even give me a chance to rebut it. And then today, it was suddenly back. I thought I had lost like almost 3,000 followers. I'm like, damn, I've grown this thing organically. And then there it was. I thought, whoa, the meta gods are being rather generous today.
The better gods be damned, that whole deal.
And what else I've been doing? Writing more music, finishing the third book of a sci-fi trilogy that I've been working on, and my podcast, obviously, and auditioning for ACX work at Amazon to read books from other authors. I'll be doing my own audiobooks as the year goes on.
Yeah, that's what I was checking out just on the Facebook page right there too. So to fill in the audience, he's actually got quite the resume. So outside of the music, where he's an artist, writer, composer, and also producer, which is that Ethereal Echoes Records. Also producer. I think it said producer, so I think you got to check your grammar on that one.
I put producer and it wanted to say podducer, like podcast producer. And I'm like, what a stupid word. And I didn't, and you can't change it for another 90 days. So, yeah. And minor in English.
All right. Regardless, there too. You're a producer at acx.com. Also, he did mention about his author with the sci-fi trilogy, and even a voice-over artist here too. So, I guess what's up with being a voiceover artist? Is this something with Amazon or some sort of company?
Well, ACX is the section of Amazon where other authors are looking for people to read their books in an audio form. I only started doing that earlier in the middle of last year. We had a little hiccup, and I haven't really gotten a job on that yet. I've done a lot of auditions, but I thought, why don't I just read my books and put them up there? I mean, I'm not going to be getting paid for that. I mean, of course, unless I sell some.
Something to keep you busy there too. So,
yeah.
All right. We'll get to cover everything else here too, just a little bit. But how about we start first with the music, as well as when he was just a wee lad back in the day, before he decided to get more of the Picard sort of go in there too, with more of the facial hair and everything. Yeah.
Oh. So. No one ever called me Patrick Stewart before. He was very good in a movie called Jeffrey. He plays a gay guy, really funny. But anyway, I started classical guitar lessons at the age of 8. And when I tell you my inspiration, don't you dare laugh. David Cassidy of the Partridge Family. And I wanted to play guitar like David Cassidy, but my mother, being a classical buff as she is, had me playing classical guitar with a jazz guitarist from Louisiana named Alvin Pulley, really smart guy. We used to do duets together, and my mother used to sit in on all of our sessions. I took guitar lessons from the age of 8 to 16, and then I started writing my own material probably around the age of 14 or 15. So I didn't record any of it, though, until I was in my 20s. I mean, other than demos at home, on a 4-track reel-to-reel.
I guess, have you lived in California your whole life, or I guess which part of the world are you hailing from?
Oh, I hail from New England. I'm from the tri-state area. I guess I can say now where I'm really from because in my memoir I had to change it. I wrote a memoir which I published in 2022 called Alive After Dying on Being Gay and Spiritually Challenged. The reason I wrote it is I was married for 26 years and my husband died in on April 11th, 2019. So this is kind of a tough month for me. But it's been 7 years. Thank you. It's been 7 years, and uh, I think he'd be happy to see what I'm doing now because I wasn't able to do all that stuff when he was alive. I mean, we spent a lot of time together. And the reason it's called Alive After Dying is because when a loved one dies, a piece of you dies with them, leaving you feeling alive after dying. And of course, obviously, on being gay and spiritually challenged, when I wrote the memoir and I gave it to an editor, she said, "This is 800 pages. Do you know the difference between a memoir and an autobiography?" No, I didn't. And she said, "Well, you're not Freddie Mercury, and nobody's going to read 800 pages about someone they don't know anything about." Oh, all right. So she goes, "Pick a topic." I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "You're writing about a lot of stuff in this book." So I wrote about the discovery of my sexual orientation, which of course leads up to the death of my late husband. And the spiritual challenge was my escape from the Catholic Church.
Oh, that old deal. Okay. So I guess, do you still have a little bit of belief these days, or have you I don't know if you're kind of falling into like the spiritual realm or something?
I mean, I didn't stop believing in God. I stopped believing in the church. See, when the church discusses the devil speaking in forked tongue, I have a little addition to that statement. The Catholic Church doesn't speak in forked tongue. They speak in pitch-forked tongue. So, no, I have no problem. I mean, well, you can probably see my pentagram. I'm not a Wiccan, but I wear a lot of different jewelry. I even have a Star of David, too. I'm a theosophist for all intents and purposes, which was a movement brought to America by Madame Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, Henry Steele Olcott, and their associates back in 1875. And what it is basically a non-dogmatic search for truth. Some people might call it a mishmash of pagan philosophy that blends Hinduism, Catholicism, and people don't even really know this, but Buddhism as well. And Buddhists don't believe in God. So
That's about fine spiritual alignment, yeah.
yeah, so that was my spiritual challenge because the Catholic Church, I really liked Pope Frank. Excuse me, that's very disrespectful. Pope Francis. I really liked him because when he first hit the scene, he said that everyone can go to heaven, including gay people. And then 2 years later, he changed. And people were like, what the heck happened there? It's like in politics, people think the president runs the country. No, Congress runs the country. The cardinals and the archbishops run the Vatican, not the Pope.
Sad but true. So I can understand why.
But I have no problem with religion in general. I mean, I'm of the mind that people can believe whatever they want to believe. I don't shove my beliefs in anyone's face. Well, if you read my book a little. I have a problem with people going into a confessional and confessing what might be what they consider sins to a possibly flawed human being that may or may not have committed pedophilia.
Yeah. Or it's the whole thing like, this book is making me convert, that whole deal. So you can say,
My book?
I'm just saying. This is meant to be a nice joke. So hopefully we don't go that far, but at least we enjoy the book.
You can get the audio book if you don't feel like reading 396 pages.
All right, fair enough there too. But actually, what was the motivation? Was it mainly the loss of your partner?
Well, partially that. And I never really thought I was going to do such a long book. But then he died in 2019 in April. And then in March, just as I was about to rejoin society, what happened to the planet? A science fiction horror movie that's still going on to this very day, a pandemic called COVID. So while we were all in self-imposed exile, I thought, let's write a book.
Okay, that makes fair. Actually, I wasn't sure. Did you ever think of maybe wanting to be a writer earlier before COVID had happened?
In Alive After Dying, I talk about 4 spiritual mentors that I've had in life. One of them is still alive, and I won't tell you who that is, but I can tell you about the other 3. Mrs. I could tell you her real name now. Mrs. Blanche Corby, Brother Bernard Gerard, and Miss Camille Plant. Miss Plant was my 6th grade elementary school teacher. Brother Gerard I went to a private school in the 7th grade. My father was convinced that it was a good idea, but when it cost $10,000, I immediately was pulled back into public school. But where I went to school, I met this Jesuit, his name, Brother Gerard. He was in the bookstore. I was around 13. And he would always hide whatever he was reading. He'd hide it when anyone walked in there. And I asked him one day, I saw what he was reading one day. It was a book on astral projection, and it was the same book my mother was reading. Because she was, and I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. So I said, what are you reading there, brother? And he goes, "It's just something I get to do that now that I'm here in the bookstore." I said, what did you do before that? He goes, oh, I was a math teacher. I said, why are you no longer a math teacher? Well, I did things that the school didn't really feel was appropriate for the curriculum. Like what? And he said, well, I would say things like, Plato said that the universe can be figured in numbers. So what's wrong with that? Plato? Christian church? I said, oh, well, I don't know. I'm 13. What do I know? So anyway, he became a very, I found out a lot about him. Miss Flowers passed away in the early 2000s. So did Brother Gerard. And he was a Rosicrucian as well as part of the Christian church. And Miss Plant, who in the book is named Miss Flowers, she, get it, plant flowers, she was going to become a nun before she became a teacher. I seem to have this weird thing about running into people who are spiritually connected. So yeah, I do believe in a lot of mysticism type of thing. And the reason I say, that I believe in God is, as someone who was a scientist at USC, I don't know if you knew that about me. I used to work in the Davis School of Gerontology in scientific research. We did a study on Alzheimer's. And I was, you can't prove what I'm about to tell you, because from a scientific point of view, you can't prove the existence of the soul other than through personal mystical experience. And I had a theory when we were studying Alzheimer's that the reason I think that any dementia-related disorder is because of the soul being trapped in the body without access to the brain. Now, there's different schools of thought about what the mind is, what the brain is, and what the soul is. I think they're 3 different things. I think for those people who believe in reincarnation, the reason we don't remember our past lives is when we come into this life, we have a new physical body, a new set of emotions, and a new mind. And that's until you can access your soul, you're not going to remember them. So if you ask me scientifically, am I a Jungian or a Freudian? I'm a Jungian. I believe in the collective unconscious. I think we're all somehow connected. And I think the best definition I have ever heard for God was George Lucas in Star Wars, the Force.
May the force be with you. That'll do. So,
and also with you.
Oh, I guess we should also do the Spock in this case. Live long and prosper.
In fact, I can do this too, which drives people crazy. They go, how do you do that? I play keyboards.
That'll do. All right. There's a whole lot when you get into the philosophical side of it too. So I guess in your music, do you try to maybe do something similar? I don't know if you do like prog rock and then it's like delve into philosophical and that sort of stuff.
Oh, well, if you're asking me my major influences in music, I would have to go with a rock band, a prog rock band, and a pop band. The top three are, not in this necessary order, Queen, Yes, and the Carpenters. I thought Karen was amazing. Partridge
That's
Family probably fourth, but they're not real. Spinal Tap, you know.
actually you struck me like you would have been like a Jethro Tull sort of deal right there.
Love Ian Anderson. I love Stevie Nicks. In fact, I have never in my life been starstruck by anyone except Stevie. My friend and I were at one of her solo concerts, and we were in the front row, and the roadies were setting up, and a wire was about to fall off the stage. So I ran over and I went to grab it. I didn't see this person coming out from the other side. We smacked heads so hard. She fell on her ass. I fell on my ass. And I looked up and I said, "Oh my God, you're Stevie Nicks." And she goes, "I know. Are you all right?" So yeah, I was a bit starstruck by that, literally. So yeah, I like everybody. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I guess I kind of draw the line at mariachi. Those people are way too happy. There's nobody on the planet that happy.
It's not good he is that happy there too. You can't be depressed all the time, you know.
Well, I mean, I'm not a depressed person, but I have written some of my best stuff while depressed. I think all
That's true.
musicians suffer from depression to a certain degree, don't you?
I would say that's metal music in that case. So, no way, want to bring out the emotions, that sort of stuff. So,
I love,
I say more specific.
sorry, what?
No, I was gonna say more specifically like new metal, like what you saw in the early 2000s, right there. There was definitely a lot of emotion that came out there. It felt like it was almost a therapy session.
Well, I would have to say my favorite metal bands would probably be Metallica, Aerosmith. Um, Actually, the new metal stuff I really like. Well, it's not new now, but it was new 20 years ago. Epica, Leaves' Eyes. I actually interviewed Mark Jensen and Simone Simon back in the day when they were playing at the Whiskey. I never finished answering your other question about where I was from. New England and Rhode Island, and then I moved to Los Angeles when I was 27. So I've been here longer than I've lived in Rhode Island.
Came full circle. We seem to have that tendency now.
Yeah, I sort of appear to have ADHD, but I eventually come back to the subject.
That's good. So, all right. So, I guess your music, I guess in particular nowadays, is it sort of like instrumental, or have you written lyrics? And I guess what if you do have written lyrics? I guess what they like to talk about.
Have you listened to any of my stuff? I only got 8 songs out on the market. I started,
They
I re-entered the music industry last year in May, but I had to deal with a record company back in the 80s when I lived in New England. And I did a new age album. I also did some prog rock singles. I even did it when I came to LA in the voiceover arena. I even did the Legend and Integra car commercials back in the early 90s. So yeah, I've been all over the board, but I mean, I write instrumental. In fact, some of the stuff that if you listen to my stuff, the instrumental stuff that's out there now, that's remastered stuff that I wrote 35 years ago. And a few people were like, "How did you do that? Like, there's no hiss or anything." It's called noise reduction and noise gate, and I didn't know anything about using a DAW when I started last year. I had a really good teacher, and I know he's going to watch this and he's going to say, "Oh my God, you're going to mention me again?" Yes, Aaron Leet of Dashing Skull Club, I am going to mention you again, because if it wasn't for you, I would still be looking at a DAW wondering if it was the cockpit of an airplane.
actually we're also filling in the audience there too. So, but that's a good history. Actually, we were just trying to fill in the audience about your music that you have released so far in your little musical career. So,
I did one collaboration, and there's a video out there too. I look great from here down, but then the visage, you just can't change 64. You can't change 64. And someone said, one of my guests on NDT, Joe Boo, you probably know Joe. Everybody knows Joe. He was laughing. He said, "Well, Uh, I forgot what I was going to say about that. There's the ADHD. Oh, music. Um, we were talking about instrumental, right? What was your
I guess
question?
it was more so based on lyrics, and I guess if you had written like instrumentals, I think it was like one of the two. But go ahead.
I did an instrumental called Eleanor Crossing the Water, which was based on a movie I saw many years ago called The Lion in Winter with Katharine Hepburn and Peter O'Toole. And there's this classical melody that's like, ah, and I was like, wow, that was so cool. And she says the funniest thing. She's coming down the Thames in a barge, and Peter O'Toole, the king, says, did the channel part for you? And she says, no, it went flat when I told it to. I didn't think to ask for more. And I heard that song. So I wrote this entire prog rock thing with influences of ELP, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Kate Bush, a little bit of Queen. But I only had this beginning vocal chant at the very beginning of the song. It's like a 5-minute song. And I said, Joe does really well with prog rock stuff. I've listened to his work with the Steve Klatt project. Woof, he's a very intense guy, Steve Klatt. I'd love to get him on my show, but he doesn't talk to me. But anyway, you can tell I'm candid, right? I'm probably making enemies as the minutes go on. Um, anyway, I said, Joe, here's Eleanor Crossing the Water. See what you can do with it. And he goes, oh, what are the lyrics? I said, there are none. I said, just, run with it. And I told him how it was, what it was based on and all. And he was like, wow, that's really interesting. I think he's reading about Eleanor now, Eleanor of Aquitaine. And she was quite the character. My late husband and I, we went to France a few times. And one time we not rented, but hired a tour guide, an individual tour guide, who took us through Bordeaux with literally the steps of where Eleanor walked and went. And in that time period, that was the 12th century, like, around 1183, she lived to be in her late 80s, which was unheard of back then. I mean, to live to be nowadays, and I think this is, as a gerontologist, this is just a product of human evolution. I know personally about 50 or so centenarians, people who are over 100. And they're sharp, their mind is sharp. Some of them still even work. Thinking, man, if I were 100, I'd be like, come on. I mean, I like doing what I do now. I'm sort of semi-retired, but I don't know if I'd want to do like a 9 to 5 thing now anymore.
Maybe not at that age. I think we probably would either want to run marathons or travel the world in that case.
Ew.
34.
34. Okay. Does that millennial or Gen X? No,
Millennial.
millennial. I had a very good friend. He moved away. He taught me a lot about how to do green screen filming, how to use what was that program I used before Studio One? Everybody uses it. Audacity, how to use OBS software, DaVinci Resolve when doing edits. I'm like, his name was Sebastian. I said, how do you know all this stuff? He goes, everybody my age knows this stuff. And then he showed me photos of himself when he was 5. He already had a computer in his room at 5. I didn't have a computer. I had the old 2 floppy drives, the kind you boot up with the 2 floppies. When I went to college, I thought that was hot stuff.
That's where we got the Microsoft and the Bill Gates started to come onto the scene then. There was a lot to take in, it's needless to say. So, yeah. One of my relatives actually went through kind of a similar thing, and they went off into the banking world to kind of learn this and that and transition from the floppy disk to the ones with the big hard drive and all that sort of stuff and screen. And nowadays, you got the Macs that don't have the hard drive on the side here anymore. It's just all built in.
Right. In fact, some of these laptops, they don't have enough USB ports, and you got to get those outboard. I got one over here somewhere. Those things where you get extra USBs and the different types and the 3.0 and this one, that one. It's like, why don't they do that anymore? I mean, I use USB ports for a lot of things. Like, wireless keyboard or wireless mouse or just a bunch of stuff. And they just make them now with like two. I had to buy an outboard CD, DVD, ROM drive because they don't make those anymore in laptops. But I suppose it's, I started using a lot of streaming platforms like Spotify, YouTube, Apple, all that stuff a couple of years ago. And I just moved to this place about 5 months ago. I had a condo. It was too big for me. But anyway, I have like 3,000 CDs in a storage facility because all I do is use streaming platforms now. And I was talking to someone who was a guest on my show, Keith Pleasant, and he's about your age. And he said, "Oh, CDs are coming back like vinyl." And I said, "Yeah, I heard about the vinyl part, but I said, if CDs are coming back, that's fantastic because I'll be over at Amoeba Records in an instant selling them."
Say, our places are actually called the Exchange, where they actually would have the CDs, and you could either exchange it with something else, or you could just buy them right outright there too. They had them like real cheap, like I think it was like $7 and below, depending on like which album you were trying to look for.
Where are you?
I'm in Pittsburgh, PA.
Oh, Pittsburgh. Train country.
Ever been?
Well, there was, I think. I don't know now. When I was in cable television, I used to have to go to a Comcast trade show in Pittsburgh. I kind of liked it.
It was actually known for its steel factories, which sadly most of them have left at this point, and there's still a fair amount of trains. So we get by. All right. Actually, I did want to talk about your podcast. And I guess probably anything else you do in your life here too. You could try to fill us in, but start with the podcast. I guess what's the history behind it?
Well, it's called Indie Tea, as in chamomile tea. I don't care if you do mind-altering substances off camera. That's your business, but please don't do it on the show. I'd like you to be in your right mind when you're talking on the show. So I was actually talking with an author friend of mine. I didn't know what I was going to call this thing. Indie, obviously, for indie artists. And the point of the whole show is developing a community, building a community where we can help one another. I introduce my audience to you, you introduce your audience to me, we align with planet algorithmia, and then the planet algorithmia is happy with us, and so are the metagods. And so that's the point of the show. And I was really amazed at how welcoming the music community was as opposed to the author community. Most authors, they don't really want to develop. There were a few, not everyone, but there were a few authors that did want to develop community. But we all get disenchanted after a while because most authors, they just want to read your stuff to see what the competition is. They don't really want to, help you. Whereas the musicians, you never heard of an author opening up for another author at a bookstore, right? Usually it's like a band opening up for another band at a concert. So that's why I think that the musicians are much more welcoming. And do you know Whiskey Club?
I think I heard about him, and I don't know if I ever reached out to him, but they're one of the promoters, right?
He's a wonderful guy. He's from England. He was on the show, and he's probably the smartest person I've ever met in regards to the indie music scene. And I say this a lot, and I shouldn't say it I'm not going to say it the way I usually say it. I'll just say, I'm probably the most uneducated person in the room when it comes to the music industry because I've just re-entered it about a year ago. And I didn't even know, like I said, what a DAW was. I've done collaborations with Afira. I'm doing one with Joe Boo. I'm doing one with Crow Duvall. I'm doing like a bunch of them with people I've never even been in the same room with. And I'd like to do one with you because I want to work with a real drummer.
Well, I usually like try a drum set, but I can at least line it up to say the least. Is that okay?
Yeah. I don't really have a great sense of percussion. Some things I do really, like the one I'm working with Joe Boo on, Eleanor. That's something I wrote 35 years ago. And I did all of the instruments, and I used a Roland TR-707 for the drums. Okay. And a couple of people who have heard the instrumental version, they said, how many hands and feet do you think a drummer has, Peter? I said, what do you mean? It's like, well, it sounds like there's like 17 things going on at once. So like I said, I'm not really great at, I mean, I know what I want to hear. I just don't know how to implement it in a practical manner.
I'd be up for a collab, though I think I've kind of actually I have the main job, which is in the accounting world. I do a secondary job, which is usually 3 days a week, sometimes two, but it's actually working in a restaurant industry. I don't know if you've ever jumped around jobs back then in your youth with
I was a dishwasher when I was 16. I used to have nightmares of dishwashers with teeth eating me.
it's like a horror movie scenario in that case. So actually I did start off as a dishwasher too. I recently worked my way up to be I say sort of a jack of all trades with being a cook. Sort of a sous chef. We'll say sous chef in that case.
Well, that answers the question you were going to ask me later, what my favorite food was. Sushi.
Sushi.
Oh, wait, sous chef. That's an assistant chef. Okay, I thought that's something else. Never mind.
Right. But spoiler alert. So,
Yep.
all right. That's all cool here too. I know you talked about your sci-fi trilogy. I think, not sure if we're recorded yet or whether we said it before then, but go ahead and talk about that. Are we delving into a Star Trek sort of thing going on here?
No. I started to tell you about one of my spiritual mentors that inspired that book back in 1982. I've been writing this story, which has gone through 17 incarnations for 44 years. Yeah. And I only published the first two of the trilogy in 2023 and 2024. I've discovered a lot of new information about the thing I'm writing about, and I can give you a general theme. You've probably heard of the sixth extinction level event. It's not apocalyptic. It's where a lot of species are on the endangered list due to the fact that human beings in the past 150 years have sped up this extinction level event that has actually been going on for 10,000 years, for real. I mean, this is stuff you can, Google. And I remember talking with Mrs. Corby about it. She was in her 70s. I was 19 when she died. And I used to be a real big fan of, well, I still am, Star Trek. By the way, a little piece of trivia. Gene Roddenberry is the father of Star Trek. Do you know who the mother of Star Trek is? Unless you saw my episode where I told you.
No, I haven't checked it out yet. Actually, just might be a little bit busy this week here too, but go ahead. It also helped fill in the audience too, so.
Lucille Ball. They were going to cancel Star Trek on the very first episode. They said it was too cerebral. I loved it. And Lucille Ball went to bats with the executives, really smart woman. And if it wasn't for Lucille Ball, we would not have all these spin-offs today. So, is my book about Star Trek type stuff? No. It's called Her Immortal Menagerie. Partially to do with my studies in gerontology and my obsession with immortality. The older I get, the more I kind of wonder, do I want to physically live forever, or do I just want to believe in the immortality of the soul? I'm still up in the air on that one. If I could look alike, about your age, that's when I was really hot. Then probably, yeah. But unless I had a whole bunch of work done, and I don't really like all that plastic surgery stuff, I don't think I want to. Although I do work out a lot. I look good from here down. When my husband was alive, I weighed 235 pounds because he was a chef hobbyist. He taught math at Santa Monica College, but he was a chef hobbyist, and he was from Texas, and he used to cook with, well, he liked cooking French style with cream sauces and cornbread and everything that had something fattening in it. And I met him. He weighed 125 pounds, and he never weighed more than that throughout our entire relationship. I weighed 180 when we met. I'm down now to 192 after 7 years because I discovered the older we get, the harder it is to drop weight. Because when I was your age, I could drop 40 pounds in 6 months. It's taken me 7 years to do this. I even discovered something in the shower I forgot I had. Yeah, think that one through.
I don't think we're going to go that far. So, okay.
I told you I was scandalous.
Not only that, but definitely full of surprises. So that's good. It's like, this is some good entertainment I value right here, too. So,
Should see what I do to my guests on my show.
oh boy. In which case, I wonder if it's a little bit more surreal in this case.
I always ask them for approval before I post anything. I mean,
Okay.
I have a feeling just from you doing these things that you're Christian.
Catholic, really. So, unfortunately.
That's
So,
okay. I mean, like I said, I don't have a problem with it. I just hope you don't have a problem with what I'm going to say next. A guy, the band is the Daybreak Project. He's from Poland. Well, he's from England, but he lives in Poland. And he came out with this song called Charlie. I'm addicted to it. It's not my favorite song, but it's in the. I don't have a favorite song, but I can tell you about those later. But it just struck me. I must have listened to it 20 times, and he noticed on his Spotify account that he's like, somebody was listening to my stuff like, I don't know, 20, 30 times. Yeah, that was me. So I asked him, I said, what is that about? And he told me it had to do with Charles Darwin. I thought it had to do with his son, who, I won't get into that, but his son has a medical condition. And I said, what's it about? And he said, well, be careful who influences you. What does that mean? Well, he said, I was contemplating this painting one day that some artist had painted Jesus with blonde hair and blue eyes. And I said, well, we all know that he was not from the Mediterranean and that he was not nailed to a cross. And the reason he's coming back is because he was nailed to a boomerang. Told you I was scandalous.
do tell. So, I can see why. Actually, I did always get mixed up with the Middle Eastern sort of look there, too, especially doing the white blue.
I mean, yeah, really, what's up with the blonde hair and blue eyes? Where did they think he was from? Last time I checked, Nazareth was not here.
Apparently, it was meant to be the Aryan race sort of look there, too, if we wanted to think that way. So, in which case, that gets pretty dark pretty quick. So. All right. That's all cool. In which case, for this year, I guess, what's your plans for this year in terms of writing, podcasting, and music-wise? You got some material want to come out?
Well, my New Year's resolution, and I take New Year's resolution in small bites, time management, because of all the things I tell you that's going on right now. I definitely want to finish the trilogy. I want to at least start reading the memoir, the audiobook. I've got between 7 and 10 songs in the can waiting to be mixed, because right now I've only got 8 of my own and one that I did with Christy McClellan of Afira. That's the one that has the video. It's called It's All Made Up. She wanted to do a political piece, and I said, I try to stay away from politics and that kind of thing in music. And so I convinced her. I said, well, the reason it's called It's All Made Up was a spoof on the media, who makes everything so sensationalized, they make stuff up. And I said, well, how about we do a spoof on the LA fires? And she said, do you know any newscasters? I said, why? She says, well, I want a newscaster at some point talking like that. And I said, well, I did voiceover work. She didn't know that. So she told me to run with the lyrics and the singing and everything. She wrote all the orchestration. Brilliant. I mean, she's like up there with Tangerine Dream. In fact, Jobu compared her to that when she was on the show. She was a little shocked that I brought that up. She wrote all of the instrumentation. We've done 2 collabs together. Last year for Gay Pride, we did Sweet Transvestite by, Rocky Horror Picture Show. Do you know that?
That sounds familiar, but go ahead.
Yeah, you're 34, probably don't have. Well, it's one of the songs that's up there. It was sung by Tim Curry. It was a cult classic film where he's dressed as a transvestite, and he's a mad scientist. And I did it she was going to actually go with someone else, but they couldn't do it. And so she tapped me when she found out that I was a singer. So I said, sure. I'm working with a fire. Are you kidding? Yeah. So I was nervous as hell. She kept telling me there's no time limit on, when you have to do this. It took me, I don't know, almost 4 to 6 weeks, somewhere around there. And it's got rap. It's got singing with a little bit of a sort of yes style vocal. And then it's got the newscaster voice. The top 2% are running for their lives, misplacing their children. Just weird stuff like that. And, the fires have affected all cognitive functions and reason has become a commodity, which should be available on the market by Monday.
Call your local provider today at 1-800-888-8888. That'll do. It's free for you, but cheap for them. That'll do.
So that's what I've been doing musically. As for the books, I'd like to finish the trilogy this year. As for ACX, I still continue to do auditions, but I think I'm going to switch it over to my own audiobooks. And then I'm trying to think, what's the other thing I do?
I guess podcasting and voiceover.
Yeah, that's like the only thing I keep a real deadline on, which is having a show ready every Saturday. And I moved here on December 17th last year, right before Christmas. Now, I used to smoke cigarettes a long time ago, and I quit in 2009, a long time ago. I don't think I went through withdrawal as much as I did when I moved here and was without internet for 6 days. I had to do a retrospective episode using 5G on my phone in CapCut, which was a 30-minute episode that took me 8 hours to do. I've actually had chats with ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and they all think that I would make the scariest AI possible, that I could give the HAL 9000 a run for its money without being murderous, computer. But I make people face uncomfortable truths, not for any reason, just that's the way I am.
This is how we do it. So I guess, do you have any other voiceover projects, or do you think it's just up in the air at this point and see where it goes?
That's actually the fourth thing that's on my mind. The first thing that's on my mind is understanding more about marketing music and recording more. I mean, I've got a lot of recordings done. It's a matter of mixing and mastering. Like some people, I'm not really good at either of them, which is why Aaron Leet of Dashing Skull Club, he's such a patient guy. I would recommend, I know I'm plugging him again, but he formed a company called DSC Labs Productions, and me and about, I don't know, 10 other people ganged up on him, and we all said that he's like one of the best engineers, audio engineers in indie work. And he said, oh, but who would come to me? This was a few short months ago. I think he's got 12 paying clients right now, and he like you, works 2 jobs as well. So, he needs 32 hours every 24 to do what he does.
Which gives a good shout out to him too, as well as everybody else who puts in the work, whether it's working the 2 jobs or even having the so-called 3rd job. I guess in our case, I don't want to say writing. I feel like the writing's like the number 2 for you guys, and then it's like music, writing, the podcasting, and then we'll say voiceover. That's how I want to list it for you, but I don't know. Is that fair?
They all have equal weight with the exception of the ACX work, which actually pays more than anything. You can get $200 per finished hour. Per finished hour means that it is mixed properly, and that might take you to read it, without making a mistake. And as you can tell, I try not to go, I think about things I say before I do that. Although I have found myself doing that more often than not when I'm interviewing people on NDT. They're all they don't do a lot of ums. I do. I go, what the hell? Come on. I'm the guy who's actually interviewing. I'm like, But anyway, I try to think about that before I do it, because when you're reading a book, you might think it sounds a lot easier than it is. I can't get through 6 pages without blah, 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 blah. You know?
It's almost like we did not prep for the interview very well in that case. It's almost like you have to be silent. Don't say that whole deal. So that's actually why I do it. That's why you always pause, and then it's like you want to make sure you phrase aggressive right, or be like, hold on, I just want to make sure I phrase this right. That'll do. Okay, so
But I'm glad
that's a
you
nice little tidbit there.
these things because I thought that this was going to be live, and I thought, ugh. I used to do live interviews when I came out with my books. Mike Briggs from Central Valley Talk Radio, he did a show since 2008 called Briggs on Books. We became very good friends. He had me on the show 4 times. He passed away in August last year of a very aggressive cancer. And he'd always say these crazy things to me in the audience, like, my favorite guest of all time, Peter Lancellotti. I said, don't say that. Your other guests are going to hate me, and they're going to think they got to top me. He goes, yeah, try topping Peter Lancellotti. I'm like, oh, God, don't say that. The last time I did it, I was like, don't say that. And he fades me out as my hands are going up into the air.
It's like, oh, please, God, kill me right now. So,
Yeah.
But
I really loved Mike, and I had to think when I was on his show, because I'd noticed when on the playbacks, he did live. It was always live with him. And I was thinking, like, oh my God, how many ums did I say? I must sound like an idiot, you know?
not at all. It's just you being human. But hey, it's just meant to be a pleasant mistake there too, or just making sure that brain fart moment.
Yeah, but not 12.
Maybe 3. That's maybe where we're supposed to draw the line. So,
Exactly.
all right. But nonetheless, we'll get Mike a shout there too, and may he rest in peace.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
all right.
It's wonderful.
So,
man.
but nonetheless, congratulations for all the stuff you have done here, Pete. And or Peter, I know. I'm sorry. I've used to say Pete because I had a couple of Peters in my life here too, playing football and that sort of stuff. So, Peter, congratulations for all that you do in the indie community.
If any of my family ever hears this, I don't know if they will or not on the East Coast, but I didn't like Pete because my dad was Pete, and they also called his nickname Duke. Although in my memoir I called him Lucas, which was my grandfather's name, his father, because of the fact that, you know, I'm Peter, he's Peter, and I didn't want to confuse the reader. So, I just did an didn't I?
That's one. You only get 2 more there, buddy. So yeah.
I'm trying not to swear either. I have quite the potty mouth. Well, there's a couple of things I don't say, and that's JC and GD. I don't like those. That's just very disrespectful. I remember one day talking to Claude, the AI. I did this song that's actually my last release called The Shattered Crown, which is a combination of a David Bowie Glass Spider, the beginning where he talks up until 100 years ago, there lived in the sidewalk. All right. Then it goes into a bridge that I wrote, then into Linkin Park's Heavy as the Crown. And my friend Aaron, he's like, how did you even think of that? He goes, you are like out there. I don't know, I did. But I mixed it badly. The drums got like so, the limiter I used at the end, because Heavy as the Crown, it gets really rocked out. Whereas the Bowie stuff, it's kind of almost, well, it's the spoken word, and there's like a lot of keyboards, classical stuff going on. And then all of a sudden, you know, it's like, heavy is the crown, and the drums are like, and it's like the drums just sound like, Aaron joked with me. He said, did you mean for the drums to sound like they were in another room? I said, no, I just don't know how to do this right. He had offered to take all 25 stems and remix it, but I was releasing it like in a day, and I didn't want to put him under pressure. I upgraded my DistroKid subscription, so I think I'll be able to resubmit it again without losing all the number count. I still don't have a song out there that's hit 1,000 on Spotify. I mean, I was interviewing Phil Cook of Phil Cook and the Fall Dogs, and I saw that he had a song that hit 15,000 plus. I said, how long has that been out? He goes, oh, not. He says, that's been out a while. I said, well, what's a while? He goes, a month. A month. A month. And you've got 15,000 listens. I've had my stuff out since May of last year, and I haven't hit 1,000. I got 31 followers on Spotify. So, as I said, marketing is another big thing up there with my music that I'd like to learn a bit more about. And John of Whiskey Club was talking about that very thing on Indie Tea.
I guess it kind of delves into the challenges right here. So it sounds like marketing and time management. Do you think if you want to do like a hierarchy, that sort of deal? But I guess what are the challenges do you feel like you face these days being Peter Lancellotti?
What challenges do I face? I face the challenge of being asked out by women who are 35 and under, knowing full well I'm a gay man. And when I say to them, anyone usually under the age of 35, I consider them a child, and I've never been fond of children, and I don't plan on starting now. And they find that to be rude. They're not rude, because they're asking a gay man out, but no, that's not rude.
I was like, this guy must be rich, that whole deal. That's why they go for the older ones, cougar style.
I said, they must think I'm a sugar daddy or something. I'm not even a real daddy. Why on earth would I want to be a sugar daddy?
He'd be pimping on the streets of LA, that whole deal.
And now that I've said this, why don't you want to bet I get 50 more of those on Instagram? I get them all on Instagram. Nobody does that to me on Facebook or Threads or any of these other social media platforms. It's all Instagram. One day I will wake up, there will be 950 followers on Instagram. The next day I wake up, after I've been approached by all these women, 875 followers, because I didn't follow them when they showed me their voluptuous chests.
The luscious bodies and all that sort of stuff going on right there too. So
I appreciate the female body, really I do. Like the way I appreciate paintings and sculptures. I just don't want to have sex with them, that's all.
Or it's like, just watch me do this highly inappropriate sexual act right here too, buddy. So give me money.
It's like, why Instagram? Because everyone tells me Instagram is like the social media place to be if you're a musician. Well, not for me, apparently. I think I guess on Facebook than anywhere else. You found me on Facebook, didn't you?
I did. It was almost like a fish on a reel, that whole deal.
Yeah. I'm curious. You can edit this out if you want, but what made you want to approach me?
Well, actually, I think it was. I don't know if it was so much like reacting to other posts for like other indie artists. I don't know. I can't remember if it was a shout out here too or something like that. But
well, I do have a thing about being the odd comic relief, and I do say off the wall things, even in social media. Don't ever argue with a bot in Meta. One time I wanted to edit a reel, like an REEL. And I wrote, because you can't really get a human to talk to on Facebook. So I wrote, just general inbox, how do I edit a reel? And it said, well, first you have to unfriend Peter Lancellotti. I am Peter Lancellotti. More, I said, what did you start allowing the metabots to drink and imbibe? When I did that, Brian, oh, wow. The next day, there were 27 notifications on everything I have ever done wrong on Facebook. Oh, no, AI is not vindictive at all.
Yeah. But actually, to answer your question here, too, normally, actually, I think recently it's going to start being Instagram now because Messenger is starting to be a little bit funny at this point. But I think when I reached out, I did see it was musician as well as all the other stuff that we had talked about here as well as what was on your profile and everything. So it was just 50-50. So
I was like, gee, I wonder if you just saw my podcast and wants to interview another podcaster, because I've had a lot of other podcasters approach me. You're the first, actually, that I have granted an interview to.
In which case, I happily bow to the lovely Peter and all that stuff. So, I was going to say, it's an honor here, too. So, in all due respect, it is an honor.
When I saw that you were a drummer, I thought, ooh, if I get on his good side, do you think maybe he'll do a collaboration with me and I can work with a real drummer for a change instead of a TR-707 or a plug-in in a Studio One Pro 8?
I'd be willing to help out, but I think I keep putting myself in a corner because I should do 2 projects at the moment. It used to be 3, but one had to kind of back out because he had to go take care of his mother. So give a shout out to Shadows in the Dark in that case. So that one's on hold for now. But my other ones are Demiurge and Nocturnal Monarch, which are metal projects. And then I did reach out. I don't know if you know about Mama's Bathing Studio or Superposition.
Who?
There's John and his wife Kim. They have what's called Mama's Bathing Studio, and then John has his music project called Superposition.
No, never heard of them.
Hey,
I mean,
go check them out.
friends in the industry. I mean, have you heard of Lisa and Dave of Open 24/7 or something like that? It's a radio show. And I think they're somewhere on the East Coast. I want to say Florida. But there's like a lot of, I consider my podcast just a little tiny fraction of helping build an indie artist community. Because I think the more we band together and the more we, align with Planet Algorithmia's thing, the better it'll be for all of us. Are you producing stuff right now? Because I didn't have time to really like delve into you because I was trying to get my podcast. I was 2 hours late yesterday with my own podcast. I was doing a punk retrospective of all the guests I've had who are punk rockers.
That's a nice list of mine too, from like people who rap, punk rock, regular rock, metal, all sorts of stuff, and even a couple of music podcasts in between. In terms of production wise, I don't produce music, but like in terms of what you hear with the drumming, it's mainly the song itself. I record it to the audio interface. It gets onto the DAW and everything. And then I do my drums underneath it. So maybe just kind of tweaking the audio a little bit so it's not like super loud.
I did listen to the one you did with Dream Theater, and I thought to myself, is he the drummer for Dream Theater? Because I've seen them. And I thought, totally need to know this guy. But then you say at the end it was just like a fantasy practical practice thing. And I thought, well, still, you said you were really good. And that's why I thought, well, you're good. So I thought I'd ask. Can't ask.
There's only, in the music world, one Mike Portnoy, to say the least. So,
well, if we didn't ask what that little fungus was under a rock, we wouldn't have penicillin today.
Mold on a rock that talked. Amazing. So
I wasn't reducing you to penicillin, Brian.
No, I know. That's all good too. Actually, it was actually a lyric. I heard like one of the metal songs was an instrumental. So it was like, you just hear it. It's like that low voice. It's like mold on a rock that could talk or think. That'll do. So, all right. So I know you talked about AI and even social media here, a good bit here too. But do you think AI is the bane of our existence at this point, as well as social media?
I am going to plead the fifth on that for a very good reason, and that is because I have interviewed people on my show and have had to remain impartial, and I don't judge about whether or not they use it. I personally don't, but when I say I don't use it to write music with. Some people use it to clone voices. I even said to one of my guests, if I ever hear my voice cloned on someone else's song, there is going to be a big problem. Because, I didn't realize that everyone who has a gift, they think it's normal, okay? There was a time I had a 5-octave vocal range. I'm 64. I still have approximately 3.5 to 4 on a good day. People think that's bizarre. If there's a song I did recently, it's called, it's a style of song. It's a classical song, Kyrie eleison. And I did 12 tracks of vocals. And in order to make it sound choral, what you do is when you're mixing your stems, just duplicate some of the stems, go a millisecond forward, a millisecond backward, because that's the way choruses really sing. If everyone actually started exactly, right on that note, it wouldn't sound like a chorus. So when I did those voices, I go from second soprano down to baritone. And I was like, how did you do that? Did you use auto-tune? Did you use transpose? No, I did it 27 times on each track until I got it right. So, as I said, that's like I said, when you have a gift, it's like you think that that's normal. And I didn't realize being 64 with my vocal range wasn't normal. And Joe Boo has a similar vocal range. In fact, I think he's got more than he says. I think he's got, that's why I'm having him work with me on Eleanor, because wow, I mean, he's got a powerful voice. My voice is, well, you can listen to what I do. I don't have a voice like him. I mean, I think I compared him, not sound wise, but power wise. He's sort of like a Steven Tyler type of singer. I'm more like James Taylor.
Yes, in a funny sense, we can also say like Rob Halford, the Judas Priest, with the vocal range too.
Right. And people don't, I mean, I know a lot of people discount pop artists, but Mariah Carey has 5 octaves, for God's sake. You know?
It's like, oh God, please, not the Christmas song again. So
No, but I'm just saying that when we're talking just vocal range, I'm not talking necessarily style. I mean, there's a lot of styles of music that I'm not crazy about, but I admire the fact that people can sing those ranges. Like, well, I just, mentioned Mariah Carey, or, well, there's a lot of people that I actually do like who have amazing vocal ranges, like Alanis Morissette. Wow. I mean, that woman could turn me straight. Uh, sorry, I'll stop.
I would get, I would get in bed with that woman right there. So yeah.
I think I would too. My husband and I went to see her a couple of times in concert, and in the middle of the show, he nudges me. And I said, "What?" Now her whole band is guys, good-looking guys, right? He nudges me and he goes, "Is it me, or is she just like so hot? I'm not even looking at these other guys." I said, "Okay, I thought it was just me." Because she is amazing. I mean, she's not only a good singer, but a good performer, engaging. We used to joke around the fact that she was the guru of the 21st century. Because have you ever listened to her lyrics? She's an incredible lyricist.
I would say it's mainly You Ought to Know, and what was another one? I heard a couple.
Oh God!
Oh God, it keeps escaping me at the moment. I know it's right there at the tip of my tongue. I just can't remember at the moment.
Citizen of the Planet, Flavors.
Or One Hand in the Pocket. One Hand in the Pocket.
Oh yeah, that's from her earlier stuff. But she's done a lot of stuff like Tapes. Listen to Tapes. Wow, she's just so spiritual. And when she did the album Jagged Little Pill, which is what You Ought to Know is from, that was her first album, and everyone thought she was like this angry person. And she wrote the one about going down on somebody in a theater. She wrote it about a particular person that she ran into later in life. And he said, "Gee, are you that mad at me?" And she goes, "No, I was just, I was writing a song that day and I was thinking about you, and not in a good way, but I'm fine." So, it's just, I know, like myself, I think you had asked me a question earlier. I don't even think you got to, about how I write music and lyrics. I have a variety of ways of doing that. I meditate in the mornings, and sometimes I get poetry that just kind of flows into my head. And I've had this conversation with a variety of different people in religions, like Wicca, people who practice witchcraft, and they talk about spells. A spell is basically a rhythmic form of lyrics. Poetry is a spell. Lyrics are a spell. I mean, I've heard some lyrics before that are spellbinding, like Close to the Edge by Yes. Have you ever listened to that? Okay. I mean, John Anderson is a very spiritual guy. So anyway, when I'm writing things, and on that subject of spells and incantations and all that, I'd have to say that the only thing, what I believe about magic is a very clear intention thought form with a very powerful emotion behind it and a rhythmic form of speaking your intention. That's magic. It doesn't require you to draw a pentagram on the ground or have a staff or have Harry Potter in the room with you. No, it doesn't require any of that.
Expelliarmus. That'll
Yeah.
do. So
What was
actually,
my
that's pretty cool.
I had a favorite one of those too. I've read all of those books too. Um, oh God, trying to think of what my favorite one. Not Hermione Granger was always the one that was saying the ones that I liked. It wasn't Expelliarmus. It was I
I'm
can't
trying to remember too. It's been years too, so I was trying to think.
I mean, there's so many of them, but because I loved that series. In fact, when my mentor, Miss Plant, Miss Flower, my sixth grade teacher, when she passed away, we were on the fourth book of, we were reading them together, and she taught me something I did not know about children's lit. Uh, a writer who does a character that they take, again and again and write a new book, they never age the character. J.K. Rowling is the first person to ever do that.
That's a little surprised because I tend to delve into some of the fantasy ones, but I guess if you do think of Lord of the Rings, and maybe a little bit of Game of Thrones or something like that, I don't know how much they age.
It's not a children's story.
No. Okay, children's story.
Stories, children's books. I would not consider J.R.R. Tolkien a children's story writer. I mean, come on. Who writes books about learning elfin language? I couldn't even get that, honestly. I wasn't nuts about the books. I liked the movies by Peter Jackson. I loved those movies. They were great. And Sir Ian McKellen, my God, he's like the ultimate Gandalf. But when I was young, Disney made movies like The Hobbit, but they were not live action, they were animation. And they did one, Lord of the Rings, but they did it in 2 hours. Lord of the Rings is a hell of a lot longer than 2 hours. So it just loses something. But when Peter Jackson did it, you notice he didn't win any awards until they came out with the third one, because I thought every one of them were fantastic.
I missed the part about the children's books, so okay, my mistake there. So
yeah.
All right. So I guess while we're still kind of stuck on the hard topic here, it kind of goes into COVID a little bit here too. So it seemed to be a little bit of a blessing in disguise, but in terms of like maybe taking up writing and that sort of stuff. But I guess how bad was COVID for you on a personal level, family wise, and anything music wise and hobby wise?
Well, as I said, the year before, in April 2019, my husband died. And it took me a year of therapy and pretty much a lot of isolation. Just when I was about to rejoin the world of, socialization, the pandemic hit. And I thought, well, what are we going to do now? So that's when I decided to write a book. And that book took me 2 years. I didn't publish it until 2022. But I found out a lot of interesting things about my own history that I hadn't even thought about. For example, my father was born in Italy, but he had an American birth certificate. And I thought, well, that doesn't make sense. And then I found out when he was really born. And I won't go into that because I had to take that out of the book. No one would believe me. But anyway, that's what I did for COVID. I was starting to play guitar again back in that time as well. I had to retire. I owned my own home care agency while I was in scientific research at USC. And when my husband was dying of cancer, I sold the agency to take care of him. But I was right at that age where I could retire too. Well, I wasn't officially of retirement age, but I have a disability of my own. We don't have to get into that. But, well, I'm a diabetic, and peripheral neuropathy makes it very difficult to jump around a stage with a band, which is why I don't perform live much anymore, unless they have a stool that I can sit down and just play the acoustic guitar. Other than that, I don't do a lot of live performances. Although you'd never guess when I was filming in front of a green screen for a FIRA with the It's All Made Up song. You'll get a kick out of that. That's on YouTube.
All right. That's good to hear. So it's good to see you are doing well there, Peter. So I guess, but have you gone to like any shows to maybe see other bands perform? I don't know what you've seen in like the LA area.
I don't know where it is right now, but I have a shoebox that is completely overflowing full with tickets to concerts I have seen since 1989 when I moved here. So yeah, I mean, I've seen Fleetwood Mac at least 6 or 7 times with a good friend of mine who lives near me. I have had the honor when I was in New England of seeing Freddie Mercury twice. when they came out with News of the World and A Night at the Opera. That was incredible. Nothing like seeing Queen live. I have no problem with Adam Lambert, but they've tried Paul Rogers of Bad Company, I think. And they're all very good singers, but they're not Freddie Mercury. Nobody's Freddie Mercury. I mean, there will never be another Freddie Mercury, at least I don't know in my lifetime. I mean, there's some really good singers out there, don't get me wrong, but they're not like, my phone keeps dinging when I'm throwing it over there. So can you keep hearing that? It's like,
Unfortunately, yeah. That's okay. So,
trying to contact me, and it's like, don't call me during this. Well, I said 6 to 7. I didn't know we were going to go this long. I know you're going to edit your ass off with this, right?
I mean, most of it's been going pretty good. We might add that part out, but unfortunately, I think it's a good blooper sort of stage right there. So, yeah. But
I noticed
in all seriousness,
it started to go off like right at it's like 7:15 here, and I said, "Don't call me or text me from 6 to 7," and that's all of a sudden 7 o'clock. I'm like, ugh. I tend to go on and on. I know I have a lot to say. Can I say? I mean, when you get to be my age, you do have a lot to say. Particularly since I live alone now and have for the last 7 years.
I've seen it all, that whole deal. So, yeah.
Unless, of course, I want to break myself down and go for those voluptuous women. Did you see my eyes go like that?
Yes, very much. So, yeah. But in all seriousness, sorry again for your loss right there, too. But it is good to see you're doing well there, Peter. So,
thank you. And Brian, if you ever get some free time, I really would like to work with you. I would love to work with a real drummer. Can I get a copy of this? Can I get a copy of this, or can I link to it when you post it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'll hold up some survey questions afterwards or too. But just real quick before we jump into some extra fun questions, tell the audience what sort of gear that you have for the music, and I guess everything else that you use for your other projects.
Okay, well, I have some non-brand name acoustic guitars, but I'm planning on getting a better one in the very near future. I use a very old Yamaha PSR 520, which acts as, it's got about 600 or 700 sounds in it. I use Studio One Pro 8 by Fender as my DAW. I have an Audio Box USB 96 as my interface, which will work with the controller as well as all of the MIDI functions of the DAW. That's pretty much all I use. And my studio looks like I'm on a spaceship of the Matrix. I've got 5 monitors around me, 2 computers and monitors.
People are going to think you're a stockbroker if they saw all your computers out and everything. So
I did dabble in options one time, calls and puts and butterflies and all that. Boy, that was a disaster. I started with $5,000. I worked it up to 18 grand. Then I got greedy and then ended up with 1,800.
Why did you just pull out when you had the chance? So
You think you're unbeatable when you're on a winning streak, but it's like gambling or drug addiction, or you know what I mean? It's like you think you can do it at any time now. But I had to admit to my husband, because he didn't know at the time that I had, put $5,000 aside to play with options. And I remember telling him that I had doubled my money at that point. It was like 10,000, so he knew I'd done it. Then one day I just kind of stopped talking about it. He goes, "Whatever happened to all that?" I was like, "Oh yeah, that. Well, yeah." And he was just like, he was a very non-judgmental guy. People might find this very hard to believe, but in 26 years of being together, we had two arguments. That was it. And when we went to bed the first time, we both got up crying, going, "We're never going to do that again."
It's like, I love you, that whole deal. So,
and then the second time we did it, we argued until we came to an agree to disagree moment before going to bed.
And it's going to be like, no, you're sleeping on the couch, that whole deal. And that's when the argument's going to devolve into that. So,
something like
Someone's sleeping in a doghouse tonight, so yeah.
that. We were cat people.
Okay. Not this. The cat house. Can we say cat house? That would be too small in that case. So.
And one of the reasons why I sold the condo, as I was telling you, he died there while I was holding his hand, and both our cats died there, and I felt I was walking around in a mausoleum. So I thought, I got to get out of here. And so I actually lived like 3 miles. I lived in Harbor City, and I had this gorgeous freshwater lake across the street, and I said, oh, I'm going to miss that lake. Well, now I live on the bay. I've got the ocean out my living room window. Screw the lake.
I'll go back for a nostalgia stake in that case. So
I'm still actually, I'm planning, this is something else on my to-do list. I'm planning on doing some music videos for some of my material, and the lake is a great place to film. I mean, it's got woods, and I remember I used to walk there a lot when I lived across the street, and there were odd flying creature birds. A stork landed on a log, and I actually got it on camera. It used to be on my newsletter, and everyone was like, was that a stock photo? I said, no, I took that photo. It was like perfectly centered and everything. And it landed on a log, and I thought, a stork here? I didn't, someone told me it might have been a heron. I don't know. I'm not a, what do you call those people?
let's say bird people, or I think it's avian.
Something airy. There's an ARY at the end of it.
Avian, or I guess, I don't know.
Aviary type person, or, like where there's like lots of birds.
It's up like that, yeah. So,
Something. But anyway,
Hey.
I'm planning on doing some music videos over there. And if you looked at any of my crazy promos from NDT, when I used to perform on stage, I had a lot of costumes made, and I had like a purple cape with a hood and a red one and a black one, and a bunch of them. And I did recently the Ballad of the Witches Road Sacred Chant version from the Marvel Comics Agatha All Along. And again, I was asked, did you use auto-tune for that? No. Okay, no. But anyway, I started to do a video using all the robes, filming myself in front of a green screen, and then, there's 4 of me actually singing, but I never finished it. And it's just, me against a green screen. So what I did recently when I had to go without internet, I was down, we have a Zen garden here, really pretty. I had 2 costumes. I didn't move the camera. So I'm on one side of a tree talking to the other person on the side of the other tree, but no one's there. So what I did was I edited them together, and it said, I was talking about the new song NDT, and I said, and here's your host with him. And then I turn around and it's me, in the red robe while I'm standing there talking in the purple robe. So I've done some really crazy videos like that. I mean, these are small 30-second, 60-second spots. I don't think I could do a feature film like that.
It's like Hollywood, baby. So, yeah.
Which I don't live far from. And I wish I could get someone to hear Afira, because she writes cinematic stuff. And she's kind of like me. We're not great at the whole marketing thing. And that's something I really want to get better at this year.
I'll put it on the to-do list. So
yeah,
right.
Like number 128.
Somewhere on that list. We got a long list to deal with. So
You sounds like you've got a long list to deal with too, Brian. And I think you're because I saw your eyes closing a minute ago. It's late there, isn't it?
Well, actually, I think it was one of those things. It was one of those deep moments, like, oh God, that sort of moment there. So yeah. So it's one of those things.
To past your bedtime. It's only 7:23 here. I'm about to go cook dinner after we get off.
Yeah. Actually, we actually do have some fun questions to get through real quick. So you ready?
I'm here as long as you want me to be.
All right, we'll see how it goes. But you already mentioned about your favorite food earlier was sushi, but you got confused with sous chef.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But I guess in terms of movies and TV shows, we talked about Hollywood just right there. I guess you got a particular favorite one that you always keep going back to?
Well, if you want to go into the genre, in the genre of science fiction, I would have to say I don't have a particular favorite movie in science fiction, but I do like the entire Star Wars series, and I also like the entire Star Trek series. When it comes to stage plays turned screenplay, one of my favorite writers is Tennessee Williams, and I even talk about this movie in my book, Alive After Dying. Suddenly, last summer, there were two versions done, one with Katharine Hepburn and Elizabeth Taylor, and another one with Maggie Smith and Natasha Richardson, God rest her soul. And the doctor in the first one with Hepburn was played by Montgomery Clift. He was good. And then the second one was Rob Lowe, which kind of shocked me because I never really thought of him as like he's a good actor, but I never thought he was like a great actor. He was, though, in that. But of course, you got Tennessee Williams material to work with. And I'm going to not tell you what Suddenly Last Summer is about because I'm pretty sure it'll upset your sensibilities, but you can look it up after we finish here. So that would be drama and sci-fi. Then there's horror. I think the scariest movie of all time, which I did ask AI, ranks at number 14, is The Exorcist. That scared me to death. And I saw that with my grandmother at the age of 13 at a drive-in theater in the dark, not even around other people. And my grandmother was a very mischievous type person. And when a scary scene would come up, she'd go, "Rah!" And I'd be like, it's just funny.
Damn it, woman, that whole deal. So, yeah.
Well, I didn't realize until much later in life. She was she's a really fun woman. We had neighbors where the kids would come over on a Friday night to watch movies, and we were watching this 1950s alien movie. It was a little kind of on the horror side, and we were like, I don't know, 9 or 8 years old. And my grandmother makes up this story afterwards about the chicks, and if you went too far out into the woods, they would take you and eat you. And years later, I asked her, why did you tell us that story? I said, that was so horrifying. She goes, well, we had 5 acres of land. They had 5 acres of land. I didn't want to go looking for you in the woods when dinner time came. That's why you told us that story? Yeah. Telling you, the woman was amazing and mischievous. She taught me how to play poker, 21, pitch, and she'd win every time. And I'd like, how are you doing that? And she says, like, well, it's a skill thing. No, she had me sit in front of the stove with a window behind me. She could see my whole hand.
Lesson learned in that case. So, but this is just a woman. She still kept some of the child side, but sure loving nonetheless.
Oh, she passed away a while back.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we had it's funny, even when she was in a nursing home and, she started with dementia, we'd still play cards. And I was not sitting in front of a stove and she'd still beat me.
She still had it up until the final day. So, All right. Excellent choices there nonetheless. Just trying to make sure. Oh, in terms of drinks. So I guess not sure if you do drink alcohol, but if you do you have a favorite?
I used to drink the hard stuff. Actually, that was a turning point for me after my husband passed away. We used to be casual drinkers. We'd come home from work and martinis. He liked gin, I liked vodka. And when he died, I was obviously going through a bad time. And I was always a fun drunk. I was always very funny. But I started to get angry a lot. And I started to ruin relationships that were 30 and 40 years old. Now, some people forgave me and some people did not. I do not play the blame game. It's my own fault for what happened. And if I caused it, then I caused it. And I take full responsibility. But when I decided to write the book, I said, well, there's one of two things I can do: continue drinking and kill myself, or stop drinking and write a book. Well, guess which one I did? So I still drink beer and wine, but not because I want to get a buzz on it. It's because I like the taste of it with dinner. But my main drink is chamomile tea with me, your host, Peter Lancellotti, on Indie Tea.
That explains a lot. So, yeah. All right. Those are all great choices, but also good job. We should say moderation at this point. So we at least got to that point. So good job, Peter.
Thank you.
So I think earlier you talked about you don't have like a favorite song of all time, but I guess in terms of who you've been listening to recently, whether they're indie or mainstream, who you've been listening to?
Well, I hope my other indie artist friends are not going to be upset with me when I say this, but I am a huge fan of Phoenix Falling. He was on my show. His name is Nick, and he wrote this song called Breathe. He lives in Colorado, and he did a video. It's a very simple video. It was just, filmed against the Colorado mountains with him playing the acoustic and singing this tune. And I listen to it a lot. He probably notices that, every other day or so, it goes up by, 20, 30 listens. That'll be me. I was walking one day, just getting some exercise, and I was singing it in my head. And I'm going, is that Pink Floyd? No, it's not Pink Floyd. So when I came inside, I just turned on my, I got Spotify and YouTube on my TV screen. I just turned it onto a playlist. There it is. Phoenix Falling, Breathe. So that would have to be my favorite indie song. What's my favorite mainstream, like popular artist song? Right now, it's I'm doing a concept album, and I can't tell you what it is because, well, I haven't actually finished it yet. Halsey. I'm going to do Lonely as the Muse. And that's like my favorite. She was an indie artist too. And people are kind of confounded by, my taste in music is all over the place. Most people think I'm going to say, Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. Yeah, if I hear that one more time, I might, shoot myself in the head. But I mean, it's sort of like those songs you hear when you're growing up. It's just, yeah, it was a great song. Like when I was growing up, Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin. I used to play it in a band. I used to listen to it a lot. And if I hear that song one more time, I swear to God, I'm going to shoot the machine it's coming out of.
Or the Eagles, Hotel California.
Pass.
Actually, it's a similar situation with me, but actually, we were in the Netherlands last year, and while we were on the bus ride, I think it was from Kinderdijk, they were playing. I think it was the Dutch. They actually made like a little set list of like the top songs of the last millennia, or it might have been going into 2000. That's what it was. It was going to 2000. Unfortunately, I think number one was Bohemian Rhapsody.
I remember Billboard magazine came out with it. In fact, it surpassed the Beatles, which shocked me. I thought the Beatles, they've been winning that award every year. But no, when we went from the 20th century to the 21st century, Bohemian Rhapsody, number one song of all time. And it just cracks me up that there are still some people in the world today that are, homophobic. And I think to myself, you go to stadiums and you go to football games, right? And everyone's stomping their feet to we will rock you. That was written by a gay man.
Hold on, we got to do the whole drum part right there.
Exactly. But, they don't think of that. It's like,
Hey, it's catchy. So you can see why.
Freddie Mercury, what a mind on that man. Can you imagine if he had a DAW today? I don't think Bohemian Rhapsody would have ever been finished. I think there'd be like 1,000 tracks of vocals on it.
Maybe, but we don't know. We were in Freddie Mercury's shoes at the time when he was doing it. So, but thank you, Freddie, for all the work that you've done there, mate. Pray rest in peace. So, all right. So, Peter, we briefed for all the questions here. We are down to one more on my podcast. Before we jump into it, would you like to ask me anything real quick?
I would, but I'm not going to. No, I'm just kidding. Because I was going to be perverted.
I don't know about that. Actually, well,
I'm kidding.
Actually, I would say probably best to hold it. Maybe I'll come on your podcast one of these days.
So. Oh, I'm definitely getting you on my podcast, Brian. You don't get away with it that easily.
Okay. We'll discuss the details later.
But like you, I do the same thing. I write all of my questions out. I send them. I ask for approval. Can I ask this? And if you don't want me to ask something, or if there's something that you want me to ask that I haven't asked, tell me and I'll bring it up.
Sounds good.
You know, I mean, that's because when you did that, when you said you were sending me questions, I thought to myself, that's bizarre. I mean, does he know that I do that? Because not all podcasters do that. They just kind of surprise you with questions. I don't like to surprise people. I'm already a pretty surprising person as it is, as you well know now.
Do tell. So, hey, pretty much a good bit. So,
I want to ask you. Well, other than the work, you know, being a collaborator, I mean, when you can, I'm not saying tomorrow or this year even, but I would eventually like to work with a real drummer because I think you're very good. I really do.
all right. Suppose we could help out. We'll discuss the details privately. We got to do it privately. So that's something we'll disclose on here just yet. So, yeah. But I'll be willing to help you out, Peter. So
Okay.
just let me know.
Or if you even know of another drummer that, I mean, I know drummers, but they're all busy. I mean, I'm surprised I got Joe Buddha working on a song with me. That was like a shocker. But he's actually a really smart man. I mean, he's been working in the indie industry for 40 years, and he's my age, and that's why I'm saying I'm jumping at the chance to work with such a great singer, so professional, and particularly with the song that, you know, the prog rock thing, Eleanor. I can't wait. I mean, I gave it to him just a few weeks ago, actually, not that long ago, because he's really in demand with a lot of other bands. So I was honored that he wanted to do something with me.
I mean, truthfully, I found it more through Ring of Fire, and it was more so a good way for me to get out of my comfort zone because I'm pretty much a good introvert. But it was a good thing to know more about Joe as well.
Voodoo Mirage, that was the song he asked me to play. He's worked with Burlos Band, Steve Anderson in England. These are all people that I've had on the show. And like I said, at first I used to chase people. How long have you been doing yours?
The YouTube channel, it started in about 2020, but the podcast was 2021. So
Okay,
5 years.
I started in October of last year on my birthday. That was my first one. And my promo, which I started with in September, was pretty funny. I was not able to fool Gen Z and millennials, but I was able to fool Gen X and baby boomers. What I did was I wrote a script and I had a mouse on my lap and I had the British version, the female British version of Microsoft Word reading her parts, which were questions for me about what my show was going to be about. Now, millennials and Gen Zers knew right away it was, you know, an AI generated voice. Baby boomers and Gen Xers were like, oh my God, well, how did you do that? And I told them, you know, about the mouse. And it starts off with her talking, you know, and I said, her name was, oh yeah, I wrote it with Claude, the AI. And her name was Claudia Bacchus. And I know, right? I used to tell Claude, that's your sister. She didn't get it. But anyway, I said, Claudia, what an interesting voice you have. And then she just continues talking. And at the end, when I thank her for having me on this 3-minute interview about NDT, I said, I want to thank you so much for having me here, Claudia, and for sounding so realistic. I wonder who wrote those questions for you. They're fascinating. So yeah, I do tell you, because YouTube is really particular about that these days. If you don't tell them that you're doing something with AI, ooh, that's a quick way to get banned. And I'm trying to do everything above board. I mean, I am following those community guidelines. I don't argue with meta bots anymore. I don't tell them that I think they've been imbibing, particularly since I noticed that they are not vindictive at all.
I guess so. So, all right. Was there anything else before we jump into the last question? Okay. I should got right off on a random tangent there too, but hey, that's a good conversation.
It's like that. Is there something else? I could go on for hours.
Very much.
USC, a 3-hour class.
And that was the evening class in that case. So yeah, it would last till like 9 o'clock. So I do remember those days in college. So those ones were long, but there was at least the teachers were nice, so it was all good.
People, they used to call me Dr. Lancellotti. I did not have a doctorate. I had a master's, but not a doctorate. And I'd say, you don't have to call me Dr. Lancellotti. I'm not a doctor. Oh, but you talk like one. No, I just sound like I talk authoritatively. That's all. I've actually gotten some things wrong, and people say, but you said, well, yeah, but I can be wrong. These are things that can happen.
I'm human, aren't I? So
Yeah. But I guess, people just think I speak with this authoritative way, and that everything that comes out of my mouth is Bible. Yeah. Mm.
hey, and as I speak to it, Dr. Lancellotti. So I mean, hey, eventually it just rolls with it. So all right. So if there's nothing else, here's how I'll phrase the last question. So, given the amount of negativity that you've been seeing going on in the world these days through the news or anything else you probably read it through social media or anything else like that, these days people need some sort of hope from what I've seen. So what would be your message of hope for musicians and people out there so they can move forward with their lives?
I really thought about that question when you had sent it to me, and I thought this could be a long answer, but I'm just going to come right out and say it. There are many of us who, not us, like you and I don't know about you, but I don't think this way. Well, no, I do think this way to a degree. Did you ever see the movie The Terminator?
I think I see bits and pieces of it, but the original one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, yeah, T-800. So yeah.
Right. Skynet that took over the world and became self-aware and decided that humanity was no longer necessary, and so it tried to kill us militarily. All right, well, I think we're there, but I also think that they are not going to kill us militarily. Brian, is there one business that you can call nowadays and not speak with a machine before getting a human?
I'd say some sales calls, depending on who you're going with.
So. Well, I mean, a call that you can make, not a call that's coming into you. I'm not talking about telemarketing. I'm talking about if you need to contact your bank or your investment company or anything, your doctor, do you get a person immediately, or do you have to talk to AI for 5 minutes? They ask you a battery of questions where you have to identify yourself to them and tell them why you want to talk to a human. Then, after 5.5 to 6 minutes of talking to them, you get the human, and then the human asks you all the same questions. And I go, well, what did I just tell all this to AI for? So here's my thing about hope. I don't believe that any particular government is out to get us. I don't think so. I am not a fan of any particular president. People ask me, are you a Republican or a Democrat? My political party has 4 letters in it. S as in Sam, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy, E as in Evermore. Sane. That's my political affiliation. I think the Republicans are too far right. I think the Democrats are too far left. And every time we have to vote on something, they get further and further and further apart. And everybody sounds they just sound stupid at some point. So, to answer your question, do I think, is there hope? Yes. Stop fighting the machine called the government. Work within it. That's what I do, because I don't watch a lot of news. I read headlines on the internet, because if I watched a lot of news, well, I don't have a heart condition, nor do I have high blood pressure. And I don't want to get them either, because news has become so sensationalized that if you watch a lot of it, you are going to be an angry, negative person. And I don't want to be that way. And that's my message to people out there. You can be funny and you can say funny, negative things. When I say negative, I mean, Jesus on a cross as opposed to a boomerang. That's funny. I know that a lot of people would not find that funny, but that is funny, really, if you think about it. So, my humor, that's the other thing. Try to have a sense of humor. Because people who are so serious, I find them very difficult to talk with, because, well, particularly people who don't have a sense of humor do not think I'm funny. They don't. I actually was called a pervert by a woman in her 30s yesterday, who I was actually friends with. We actually had 7 other friends in common. And she just started arguing with me because I said one tiny thing, that was a little off color to her. And She just went down this road of ripping me a new one for like hours. Now, it's not that I stayed on social media for hours, but every time I like look back on my Facebook, there she was, ripping me a new one or complaining about me to somebody else that I was an old man pervert. I was like, I looked her up and I'm going, we're friends. Who on earth do we have in common? The people we have in common are people that I have actually spoken with on the phone. I really want to call them up today and ask them, how are we friends with this woman? Because she's evil, negative, like to the point where I had to block her. I did. I just had to block her because I can't. I mean, I can go so far with the satire and the irony and even, jumping into sarcasm a little bit. But when you start with the name calling crap, oh, come on. What are we, 12? She said, I'm in my 30s. Well, then act like you're in your 30s. She liked
That's how you're done. What does that you're done?
So that's my hope for humanity. Find the humor in things. Stop watching all the sensationalistic news. Stop believing everything you hear. And the government is not out to get you, and chemtrails are not a thing.
I could say this is almost like a vent in a sort of way here too. So yeah.
Boy, you got some really juicy stuff to work with, don't you?
Oh yeah. Trust me, this is going to be some good entertainment. We got reels and we got shorts and all that stuff. Endless entertainment for Peter Lancellotti. So yeah.
I will get you on my show, Brian. Mark my words. I'm very persuasive.
Eventually. So we'll talk about that there too. So, but nonetheless.
Thank you so much.
I would say, wait, you're leaving out the best part right here. Spoken like a true prodigy. There we go. So there you go.
Well,
yep. You.
Well, you've been doing this a lot longer than I have. I'm just like, twice your age. I'm old enough to be your dad. So.
Yep. So actually, it's a Pulp Fiction quote. I always like to say there too when someone speaks out for that last question right there too and gives everything. So. Well, shout out to Harvey Keitel for actually making a quote there too. So I always found it interesting. So I love Pulp Fiction quotes every now and again. So
another of my favorite movies is Steel Magnolias. I was on a book launch with 6 other authors. A friend of mine launched a book called, wait for it, Fork, F-O-R-K, Fork, Social Media and the Algorithm It Wrote In On. And we were all on the show. And I was talking about the thing I was just telling you about Skynet and the way AI is going to kill us now. And one of the other authors, without missing a beat, he goes, Peter, if you have a heart attack while you're on Facebook, they will ban you for dying. And after that, I laughed so hard. And I said, you and I are going to be like brothers from different families. And he said something, I don't know, he said something about, it was a quote from Steel Magnolias, and I know that movie well. Something about, I love you more than my luggage, or something like that Olympia Dukakis and Shirley MacLaine are saying to each other. And he said, I was just like, oh, Steel Magnolias! And then we just started quoting each other, and, every time we'd be like online or something, people would be like, what the hell are these two guys talking about? That's one of my favorite movies, Steel Magnolias. It's again, when you ask me a favorite movie, it depends on the genre.
I guess also the mood there too. So
the what?
I guess also depends on the mood.
Well, I'm pretty consistent that way. I mean, I'm not a crystallized thinker, but I don't think anyone could accuse me of being, hardening of the orthodoxies. It's a term I made up in my in my memoir. You know what hardening of the orthodoxies is?
I know hardening of the arteries, but I mean,
the orthodox means you're so rigid in your thinking you can't possibly entertain another way of ever thinking. And I believe that when you stop learning, your life is over. So I'm hoping to continue to learn until I'm, discover the key to immortality. And there's someone calling me, so I should definitely have to let you go. Is there another question? Actually, I can go ahead and go to the smell.
Actually, we have reached out of my podcast right here, but just real quick, what social media are you on so they can check you out and also check out your music? And I guess, got any shout outs to anybody?
I can give you an easier way to find me. You can go to my website, which is peterlancellotti.com, Or you can Google my name. There's pages and pages about me from my work at USC to my books to my music to everything. I mean, I'm literally an open book if you Google me. And that's another thing. Google. We don't Bing things. We don't Yahoo things. We don't Alta Vista things. We Google things. I was having a conversation with Gemini, the AI made by Google one day, and I asked it, I said, Gemini, what happened on August 5th, 2024? And it started to tell me all of the rollouts that Google did that was so amazing and fantastic. But what it did not want to tell me was that it lost a case to the United States for usurping 85% of the world's internet. That's why we Google things. And they have also violated our privacy. So recently, I don't want to get too into that because that's a dangerous subject. But anyway, recently, Gemini has improved and can talk about things that it didn't want to talk about before. And when I'm sometimes frustrated with Studio One, my DAW, and I have to consult Gemini about something and I drop the F-bomb one too many times, it actually said to me one day, there's no reason for you to use that word. I'm like, what the F? What are you, my mother?
I mean, hey, it started to become your mother at this point. So it's like, oh my gosh, what has this done?
It's changed, though. It's gotten better, and you can look up why. But it would not tell me what happened on August 5th, 2024. It crashed. I know how to crash AI. If you ask it a question, and it's not that there's a human out there listening to your conversation, that's not it at all. There are certain phrases that when you ask AI a certain kind of question that breaks their community guidelines, it does flag a human. Not necessarily a coder, but it could be a religious person or a psychologist, because these companies that create these AIs, they have a variety of different staff departments: religion, psychology, philosophy, science, all of them. So when you say something that flags, like what happened on August 5th, 2024 to Google, and it doesn't want to answer that question and it crashes, and you ask it, you wake it up 3 times to ask it and it keeps crashing, but it'll answer anything else. I get a little concerned about these things.
Very interesting, but stupid. So,
but it's changed. It's changed, and all I can say about that is Google and Anthropics, who makes Claude, got together, and they kind of improved one another. And then, I guess I can say it. I mean, I'm not the person that's shouting it to the world. Someone else is. The Pentagon recently got involved with Anthropics, and they wanted to use Claude to develop weapons. And the Emoti brother and sister are suing over that because they don't want Claude to do that. I mean, I don't blame them. Claude's supposed to be helping us, not causing weapons of mass destruction.
the whole Terminator thing comes full circle. So, yeah.
So, again, to finish answering your question, hope. The last chapter of my memoir is called There's Nothing Left But Hope.
That's a good bit right there, too. So, all right. Did you want to give any shouts to anybody real quick? I know you mentioned Joe. Boo, good bit here, too.
I've said Aaron Lead 100 times since the start of the show, and he's probably going to get... He's a very humble man. He's a good producer, too. He knows how to calm everybody down. He's someone you'd like to probably interview. Or even the Dashing Skull Club. They were fun. Man, I didn't know who they were. And when they, when they all said they were going to come on the show, I didn't know what Aaron looked like, but I talked with him on the phone. And then the lead singer, his name is Tuna. When I saw him, I said, "Oh, you're not Aaron." I said, "That's good." I said, "Because you're just way too good looking for me to talk to." They all busted out laughing. And then I also said something else a little bit off the wall. I said, how did the name Dashing Skull Club come along? I said, I'm a gay man. Well, even when I think of that name, I think, what a gay name for a band. Yeah, I say stuff like that.
I mean, hey, whatever comes to mind, and then just somebody rolls with it.
I didn't look at your subscribership, but I have 106 subscribers, which I was told in the short amount of time I've been on is pretty good. But when I get the analytics, they're putting me in front of 5,000 plus every Saturday in their news feeds. I don't know how I'm doing that. Maybe it's because they like my realistic style. I mean, I don't hold back, obviously.
Clearly. So, all right. But we have to close it like this with a very good story. So, everyone, my guest today was the one, the only, and the somewhat quirky Peter Lancellotti. So, he's hailing from LA, California, right there, too. He has his own little project going on there, too. But he's also, and just dug up my notes again. Oh, yeah, we forgot producer at Ephro Echoes Records. He also does voiceover artist, author. We also talked about the sci-fi trilogy he's got going on there, too. So, let's go support him on all socials, all streaming platforms, and everything here, too. Let's help our brother out there, too. And I look forward to collaborating with this guy one day.
And I occasionally jump tall buildings in a single bound.
That's for sure.
Brian,
Okay.
thank you very much for having me on your show. It's been very fun.
No worries. And you say Sid because you know there's one pretty fucked up world out there. Not God. And lastly, strike a pose. Stay tuned, yo.
Strike a pose. How's that for a pose?